Can you imagine having only 2 days to prepare and then facing the biggest challenge of your career on your home turf, with millions of eyes on you? Well, that's the situation for Yuki Tsunoda, the new Red Bull driver making his debut this weekend at Suzuka. And he's doing so not only at his home GP, but also in Red Bull's final year with Honda. Pressure? No. This is a bomb waiting to explode. Today we're going to analyze why this move could change everything for Tsunoda, for Red Bull, and perhaps for the future of F1. But before we get into the nitty-gritty, I want to know your opinion. Do you think Yuki is ready to drive the most difficult car on the grid? Leave your comment and let's get this video started. Red Bull has done it again. In a decision that took even those closest to the paddock by surprise, Yuki Tsunoda has been promoted to the main team, displacing Liam Lawson after just 2 Grands Prix of the 2025 season. This move, executed with unusual speed even by Red Bull standards, not only alters the team's internal structure but also revives old criticisms about the Austrian team's driver management. But there's much more behind the move than a simple matter of performance. Since the start of the season, Red Bull has been in an awkward situation. Although Max Verstappen continues to demonstrate his adaptability and talent by staying competitive, the team has lost ground in the constructors' standings. McLaren, with a lethal combination of consistency, race pace, and excellent tire management, has taken the lead. Red Bull faces pressure not only from outside, but also internally, where the objectives are very clear: retain the Drivers' Championship with Max and regain the Constructors' crown. And that urgency appears to have been the catalyst behind the driver move. Lawson, who had been promoted following Sergio Perez's departure, arrived at this seat with high expectations. He was seen as a rising talent, someone who could offer the support Max needed without becoming a liability within the team. However, the initial results were alarming. 2 races, 0 points, multiple errors in qualifying, and a clear disconnect with the RB21's performance. For a team accustomed to immediate results, patience with Lawson quickly ran out. What was most striking was the manner in which the transition unfolded. While most driver moves are announced weeks in advance or at least after thorough analysis, this change was executed in the middle of 2 Grands Prix. Tsunoda had to cancel his entire promotional schedule and travel urgently to Red Bull's headquarters in Milton Keynes. There, he spent just 2 days in the simulator, preparing against the clock for his debut at Suzuka, his home race. A gesture that reflects both the Japanese driver's determination and the level of improvisation with which the situation is being managed at Red Bull. Yuki, for his part, arrives with a mix of pressure and motivation that is hard to match. Not only does he represent Honda in its final year of collaboration with Red Bull, but he also carries the expectations of an entire country that will see him race at Suzuka. But he also presents himself as a figure of renewed experience. Despite his young age, Tsunoda has accumulated valuable experience in F1 with Racing Bulls, formerly AlphaTauri, and his evolution as a driver has been notable. His performances in qualifying and his strategic maturity in the race have been highlighted even by members of the paddock who in the past doubted his consistency. What makes this promotion even more symbolic is the corporate context. In a year in which Red Bull and Honda close a historic era, having a Japanese driver in the main seat is not just a technical decision. It is a strategic move for branding, for legacy, and for an emotional connection with the Asian public, and especially with the Japanese fans. It's no coincidence that this move comes just before the Japanese Grand Prix, on a weekend that will be loaded with symbolism and media attention. So, while many in the paddock are talking about a risky move, Red Bull sees it as a measured gamble. An attempt to reawaken a team that can't afford to continue losing ground. And for Yuki, it's more than an opportunity. It's the race that could define his legacy in Formula One. 4 years, one narrative has been constant within modern Formula One. The second seat at Red Bull is an electric chair. A psychological, technical, and sporting challenge that has consumed drivers with proven talent. From Pierre Gasly to Alexander Albon, including Sergio Perez, all have faced the same obstacle. A car meticulously designed to suit Max Verstappen's unique driving style. A car that seems to become an untamable beast for anyone other than the Dutchman. And now that reputation has reached its peak with the RB21. Since the start of this season, criticism of the RB21 has been rife. The F1 technical community has pointed to a car with an extremely aggressive front-end setup, with immediate cornering response but compromising rear-end stability. This type of behavior is ideal for Verstappen, a driver with a unique ability to control rear-end slippage and maximize traction even in low-grip conditions. But for any other driver trying to replicate that style without the same sensitivity and technique, the car becomes a near impossible challenge. That has been precisely the story of Liam Lawson. In the first 2 races of the season, it became clear that he couldn't adapt to the RB21. Lack of confidence under late braking, difficulty managing fast cornering, and the inability to find a setup that would allow him to squeeze the car without losing the rear end ultimately ended his short stint at Red Bull. It wasn't just a question of pure performance, but a feeling behind the wheel. And when a driver can't feel the car, confidence disappears. In F1, that's the beginning of the end. But in the middle of this narrative, there's an unexpected twist: Yuki Tsunoda. The Japanese driver, after just 2 days in the Red Bull simulator, declared that he didn't find the RB21 as difficult as he expected. And he didn't say this lightly. He spoke of a different setup philosophy, a way of attacking corners completely different from Racing Bull's, but one that didn't feel uncontrollable. He even praised the front end's capability, something that, paradoxically, could benefit his natural driving style. Tsunoda is known for preferring cars with good cornering response and a minimal tendency to understeer. That profile might fit the RB21's base setup better than anyone imagined. These statements contradict years of arguments within Red Bull. While the simulator isn't identical to the track, it serves as a first barrier of perception. The fact that Yuki didn't feel the car was treacherous from the start is a symptom that many in the paddock are closely monitoring. What if the RB21 isn't as untamable as has been said? What if the problem has been a string of drivers with incompatible styles, rather than an undesignable car? And this leads us to an even deeper reflection. What happens if Yuki manages to adapt quickly and starts delivering solid results? The narrative of the car being exclusively for Max weakens, and with it, the excuse to justify why so many talented drivers have failed in that second seat. Red Bull would have to rethink many things, from its development process to its driver selection strategy. This analysis highlights that the key lies not only in the car, but in the pairing between machine and driver. Yuki Tsunoda could unexpectedly be the turning point that forces Red Bull to stop looking inward with excuses and start looking outward with results. Because if the Japanese driver manages to tame the RB21, then the myth of indomitability was nothing more than that, a myth. There are moments in Formula One that transcend the sporting aspect. Moments in which technical, commercial, emotional, and symbolic factors align to create a unique opportunity. Yuki Tsunoda's arrival at the Red Bull main team just before the Japanese Grand Prix is not a simple coincidence. It is a carefully orchestrated operation with implications that go far beyond just another race on the calendar. Suzuka isn't just a legendary circuit for its technical layout and history of champions. It is, above all, a temple of motorsport for Japanese culture. And for Honda, it's home. In 2025, the Japanese brand is closing out one of the most successful periods in its modern history in F1, after returning with Red Bull and playing an essential part in winning world titles. The fact that Yuki, a driver trained under the Honda program and a symbol of Japanese talent, is getting into a Red Bull at this race represents the close of a perfect cycle. An emotionally charged gesture that strengthens ties with the local public and revitalizes the connection between brand, driver, and fans. But this isn't just a nod to nostalgia or a marketing ploy. This context creates an environment in which Yuki can flourish. Unlike rookies who enter F1 under pressure without institutional support, Tsunoda arrives at Suzuka supported by an entire country, by a brand that has backed him since his single-seater debut, and by an organization that, at least publicly, has shown him complete confidence. The Japanese driver not only represents a change within Red Bull, but is the face of a strategy that aims for something much more ambitious, restoring Red Bull's more relatable, diverse, and emotional image, at a time when internal controversies have tarnished its reputation. And this comes at a key moment. The team urgently needs a positive narrative to balance the tensions generated by constant driver rotations, internal power struggles, and the growing dependence on Verstappen. Tsunoda's debut at Suzuka, with a special livery on the RB21 commemorating the Honda era, allows for the construction of this narrative of renewal and homage at the same time. It's a way of saying, not all is lost, we continue to evolve, we continue to believe in young talent. In addition, there's the motivational factor. No Japanese driver has ever won a Formula One Grand Prix, and although Tsunoda isn't the favorite, the simple fact of competing with a Red Bull at his home race automatically makes him one of the weekend's protagonists. Every lap, every maneuver, every radius with the wall will be scrutinized by the local press, sponsors, and fans. It's the kind of scenario that can make or break a race. But it's also a media platform that no other driver has at this point in the season. This is the context that makes this moment unique. It's not just that Yuki has a chance. It's that this opportunity in this location at this point in the championship has the potential to redefine not only his career, but also the future of Red Bull. If he delivers a convincing performance, he doesn't just earn points and prestige. He gains influence. He gains political capital within the team. And it leaves an indelible mark on the narrative of the 2025 season. Because at the end of the day, F1 isn't just defined by fastest laps or podiums. It's defined by moments. And this could be the most important of Yuki Tsunoda's career. And this is where everything takes on a new meaning. Yuki Tsunoda's story at this point in the season isn't simply that of a driver moving up the team ladder. He's the purest representation of what it means to be in the right place at the right time, but also with a huge responsibility on his shoulders. Not only because he has to replace a teammate who has fallen into disgrace after 2 Grands Prix without points. Not only because he's facing the RB21, a car shrouded in fame as the most demanding on the entire grid, but because he's doing it in the heart of his homeland, in front of a fan base that idolizes him and hopes to see in him not a replacement, but a true contender. In this video, we've unraveled not only the reasons behind this sudden rise, but also the myth of the indomitable car, and the emotional, technical, and strategic context surrounding its debut at Suzuka. We saw how the pressure on Red Bull is higher than ever, how sporting decisions intertwine with brand interests, and how a race can be much more than a simple on-track performance. It can be a statement of intent, a break with the narratives of the past, and the beginning of something completely new. Yuki Tsunoda knows this. He knows this opportunity won't come again. He knows that if he can adapt quickly, make a difference, and at least come close to Verstappen's performance, he can secure not only a full season in one of the best single-seaters in the world, but also change the perception of him within the paddock. Because this isn't just a test of speed, but of maturity, of character, of composure under pressure. So, regardless of the results he achieves this weekend in Japan, one question remains. Are we witnessing a turning point in Tsunoda's career or another name that will be swallowed up by the Red Bull machine? Fate is in his hands. And the whole world is watching. If this analysis left you thinking, if it helped you better understand what's really at stake with Yuki's rise, I invite you to subscribe to the channel and activate the bell. Here we'll follow every move, every race, every twist and turn in this story that's just beginning. Because in the next video we'll talk about Red Bull's true plan B if Yuki doesn't live up to expectations. And I assure you, it's a name you won't be expecting.